Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Wicks and I'm a research scientist with Patients Like Me. These slides were originally presented at the ALS MND International Symposium in Toronto, Canada in December of 2007. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the website Patients Like Me and how it came about, walk you through a user's profile, tell you a little bit about our research, and tell you more about some of the directions we hope to be moving into the future. To give you a little bit of background about the site, it was founded by three brothers, the Hayward family, who are from Cambridge, Massachusetts and have strong links to MIT. Oldest brother Jamie is a mechanical engineer who quit his job in neuroscience business development to found ALS TDI. This was to help find a cure for his brother Stephen Hayward, who was a carpenter diagnosed with ALS at the age of 29. Younger brother Ben was a film producer in Hollywood with a background in medical devices who left his job to found Patients Like Me with a family friend, Jeff Cole, a software developer. The concept of Patients Like Me is that in an incurable condition with a limited amount of time, it makes sense to find out what other people have tried, what's worked for them and what's failed, and to document that so that other people can learn from it. There's an emphasis on sharing information to help people make decisions about their care. The core Patients Like Me platform allows patients to measure their outcomes, to share information with one another, and to learn more about their condition, treatments, and symptoms. In particular, we allow people to learn information from other patients who have been there and learned from their experiences so that new people don't have to go through the same learning experience again. This is a patient profile, and this particular case is that of Stephen Hayward. You can see here the main outcome measure in ALS is something called the Functional Rating Scale, which is the main outcome measure used in clinical trials. And as Stephen was progressing with his ALS, he was filling in a self-report version of the scale, which has been plotted here on this graph. And what you see is the rate of decline plotted against time in his physical function. And you can also see these blue curves here, which represent percentile data. So you can see that he was a relatively normal progressor, slightly slower than average. Underneath that you can see other objective measures. Here you can see FVC, forced vital capacity, and we also track people's weight, their body mass index. Underneath that you can see his treatments, both prescription treatments and over-the-counter treatments, as well as supplements and equipment. And this is plotted here on the same scale as the progression scale that you can see above. We also ask patients to fill in data about the 10 core symptoms of ALS and measure those as either mild, moderate or severe in their severity. And this whole sheet can be printed out and taken to the doctor so that the patient is now guiding the consultation themselves, and the doctor can see at a glance what's been going on since last time the patient was in. Just one thing to point out to you, you might notice this small stick man here. This is the patient representation, and this appears at several points throughout the site whenever a user makes a post in the forum, or if you search for patients, this is what you'll see. And the idea of the representation is that this is something to give you an idea of what the person would look like if they're in front of you. So there are 4 body segments here: the head, the arms, the chest and the legs, and these are each coloured in green, yellow or red according to the severity of specific items on the FRS. So it's just a very simple way of, at a glance, determining how someone is functioning at the moment. And what this helps you do is for patients to find a patient like them. And here's an illustration of why finding a patient like me is important, particularly in something like ALS. These curves represent the progression of ALS depending on whether you have an arm onset or a bulbar onset, where the symptoms were first in the mouth and throat region. So you can see here, about a year after diagnosis, both arm onset and bulbar onset patients have got very similar experiences. But by the time they're 3 years down the line, the arm onset patient is experiencing problems with fine motor control and walking, whereas speech and breathing are relatively unaffected. And you can see in the bulbar onset patient, it's the opposite case. And so as time goes on, you can see that although they're both experiencing the same condition, they're experiencing different things, requiring different interventions at different time points. So one of the things we really emphasize when people first enter in their data is we present to them a number of people who are like them, and so who can be the most relevant people to provide information and advice and support. So in addition to finding a patient like you, we have a number of other features that we're very proud of. We have a forum which we describe as a walled garden, which means that the posts contained in there cannot be searched by search engines. You have to be a member to read there or to post there. And so people find that the forum is quite private, and they're willing to discuss quite sensitive topics there. We've recently integrated Google Mapping so that you can look at a glance about how many patients are in a state or a country. For healthcare professionals, we have the doctor visit sheet, which we hope will speed up clinic appointments, for instance by having a paper record of what treatments people are taking and how their symptom management has been. We're also able to carry out research on the site. A couple of examples of recent studies that we've done are here. We've collaborated with Dr. Bob Brown's lab at MGH on a genetics project which was able to yield another 50 DNA samples. We've done our own cross-sectional surveys looking at patients' knowledge about cognitive change and their attitudes about information seeking. And we've also done some research developing new scales in ALS. One example of this was actually an idea that came from a patient on the site who pointed out a flaw in the ALS functional rating scale that we use, that is also used in clinical trials. And she pointed out that quite a lot of people were described as a 0 on this scale because it's only designed to track the progress of people within a particular range for clinical trials. And so she suggested that we might be able to develop a number of new items in order to increase the sensitivity of the FRS scale for people at the most severe end of the ALS progression. So that's exactly what we did. We generated 10 items after pilot interviews, and then we sent it out and got responses back from several hundred ALS patients in only a week, and then we're able to do a 1-week retest, and we've just recently completed a 3-month retest, and we've come up with these 4 new items which you can see here, which we will be publishing very shortly. But this is just an example of how we do research that is often inspired by our patients and has them very much in mind in everything that we do. A couple of frequently asked questions then. Who pays for the site? Well, it's very important to emphasize that the site is free for patients, for researchers, for caregivers, for non-profits. No member of ours pays. We don't have any advertising banners, we don't do pop-ups, we don't spam. We're currently funded from a $5 million investment round, and our aim is to generate revenue from drug companies and other partners for access to anonymized and aggregated data from our community so that they can learn more about what their patients want and develop better products for them. In terms of future directions, there are several smaller neurological diseases we're hoping to do in the near future, but ultimately we would like to cover all of medicine. We're also developing additional tools to help patients manage their condition, such as a goal tracking module and a pill box. If you'd like to know more, the best thing to do is to visit the site itself. It's at www.PatientsLikeMe.com. We hope that you'll tell your colleagues and your patients, and that you will join your patients' care team if you find any of your patients there. If you have any questions about any of the issues I've discussed in this talk, please feel free to drop us an email at support@PatientsLikeMe.com. Thank you very much.